Hi friends, it's good to see you. Today I am delivering on a promise that I made a couple of weekends ago when I put out my updated Elder Scrolls Maps video. In that video, I promised that soon we would do another Elder Scrolls Maps video where I trace the route of every single Wandering in Skyrim video that I have ever done in the history of this channel. And this is that video. So we're going to be going through all kinds of past wanders, reminiscing and talking about some of the sights and things that we experienced in Skyrim. But before we get all misty-eyed and reminiscent about beautiful sights in Skyrim, let's take a moment to appreciate the beauty of this gorgeous t-shirt from this video's sponsor, Into the AM. Into the AM are sellers of elevated everyday apparel. That's their tagline, but it's a really apt tagline. What it means is that they sell stuff that looks great, like this beautiful design here. Check it out. Isn't this gorgeous? Looks great, but also feels great, really nicely fitted, high quality fabric, a little bit stretchy, really comfortable fit, and also easy to care for. Their tees come pre-shrunk, so you don't have to worry about them shrinking in the wash or anything like that. And at a reasonable price, you can get 3 of their exclusively licensed graphic tees for $60 or 6 for $110. And you can save 10% of your entire order using my link down at the top of the video description. That covers their graphic tees, which come in all kinds of eye-catching and lovely designs, as well as their hoodies, their tanks, their joggers, their underwear, all that good stuff. 10% off your entire order, and you'll be supporting the channel when you do so. I really love working with Into the AM, you guys. They've been an awesome sponsor for like years now. And one of the reasons is because I really like their products. I really like what they make and I stand by them. But also because they've been so supportive of what I do here for so long. So if you guys like what I do here and you like awesome quality, beautiful, elevated apparel like these gorgeous graphic tees, and you like saving money, then make sure you head on over to Into the AM using the link at the top of the video description to get yourself some sweet clothes and save 10% off your entire order. A big thank you to Into the AM for sponsoring today's video. Now it's time to wander in Skyrim. Hello, my friends. It's Nick, the ASMR nerd. And today we are once again looking at Elder Scrolls maps. Well, one particular Elder Scrolls map, the Skyrim map, as you might have noticed here. Province of Skyrim, it says down here. And we are here looking at the Skyrim map today because last weekend I put out, no, pardon me, 2 weekends ago, I put out a video for the 10th anniversary of this YouTube channel. And that video was a remake, a tribute, if you will, to one of the most popular other videos on this channel. My soft-spoken Elder Scrolls Maps video from 2016, which many of you seem to have very fond memories of, or in fact, still go back to this day to watch and enjoy. And so the video from 2 weekends ago was a really nice way of revisiting that style of video and, you know, getting a bit nostalgic over that video. But one thing I wanted to do in that video that I did not have time to do was a tour through Skyrim where I trace each of my Wandering in Skyrim wanders on this Skyrim map. My Wandering in Skyrim series is, of course, another one that I have been doing for many years, a decade almost now, and also something that I think many of you enjoy. So I thought this would be a really fun way to reminisce about the Wandering in Skyrim videos and combine it with an Elder Scrolls Maps video. I just didn't have time to do it in the video from a couple of weeks ago. So here we are. I'm following up, keeping my promise, and we're going to attempt to do all the Wandering in Skyrim routes here on this map. I once again have our pencil made from a stick and I will be tracing the routes very gently, like so, on the map, and trying hard not to actually write on it with the pencil. Maybe I'll use this end. It's not as precise, but it's less likely to leave a mark. And as of right now, looking at the playlist for all my Wandering in Skyrim maps, which I will link down, or Wandering in Skyrim videos, I should say, which I will link down in the video description, I can see 48 videos. So I'm going to be going through them, bringing them up on my screen here so that we can sort of figure out the route as we go, because some of them I remember very well, others less well. It's been a long time for some of them. And then I will overlay them somewhere on the screen here, just so that you can be reminded of little bits and pieces of those videos as well. Hopefully this all works out. Also worth noting that this map of Skyrim that we have in front of us here is not the most detailed, and so some of the routes that we will be following or that we will be tracing, might be a little tricky to actually trace, like figure out where exactly I wandered, because there's not a lot of sort of fine detail features on this map, but we will do our best, of course. Very briefly, just before we jump in, I want to give a big shout out to this video's Fusro tier patrons. These are individuals who are supporting this channel very generously at the Fusro tier on my Patreon. If you'd like to know more about my Patreon and the awesome perks that you can get, such as early video access, a credit in these videos, voting in a poll for a monthly viewer's choice, or indeed getting a spoken thank you in my videos, go check out the link down in the video description. It's all down there. So the Fusroda tier patrons for this video are Drummer Brit, Rango Steele, Angel Garcia, Jake Luffney, and Blacktooth Bob. A huge thank you to those individuals for their kind support and for joining at the Fusroda patron tier. Alright, so with that said, let's get started. So there's going to be some clicking sounds in this video too. It will be my mouse that you hear because I'm going to be, as I said, opening up on my screen here each video and just playing a little bit of it so that I can see where we go in each video. So, Wandering in Skyrim Part 1. I put this out way back in, gosh, I think maybe March 2013, April 2013, something like that. It's the one that started it all. And I don't actually really need to look at the video for this one because I know exactly where we wander in this first one. We start in Whiterun. We start in Whiterun. We spend some time on the parapets, talking a little bit, introducing you to Skyrim, and then we wander down this way along the main road to the south of Whiterun. We make our way across the White River and we follow this road along the White River down past Valtheim Towers to this intersection right here where we veer off the main route and we follow a little path into the woods past a spot called Hilgrun's Tomb. Apologies for my stomach. I am hungry and should have eaten before this video. I feel like this happens a lot these days. But we spend some time in a little forest stand here. We see a great dragon circling out over the East March volcanic tundra. Then we end our wander near a waterfall, and I don't think that waterfall is marked on this map, but it does flow down into Darkwater Crossing, which occurs down here. You can see this is the Darkwater River, so I suspect that it must be right around here somewhere. Again, this is not all that detailed, and it's not quite to scale, but I believe we end the first wander right about there. Little did we know, or did I know, that that was going to be the first of many such wandering videos. But you all enjoyed it very much. I enjoyed recording it very much, so there was another, and then another. That first video, of course, is the one with the Bandicam watermark stamped at the top. I dearly wish that I had found a way to remove that, or had bothered to do so at the time, but I didn't know if this was going to be a regular thing. I didn't have any other software that could do it at the time, record my screen. This was well before things like NVIDIA Shadow Play, the GeForce Experience, the built-in recording and all that. So Bandicam watermark it was. Also, it wasn't a continuous wander. I believe I made some cuts along the way, edited it for the more interesting material. And that's going to be the case for a lot of these wanders, actually, where maybe we didn't walk every step of the route I'm describing. In some cases we did, in other cases we didn't. Alright, so the second video, I remember approximately how this one goes. I certainly remember where it starts, which is right where the last one stopped. And in most cases, for most videos, that is the case, where I end and begin in the same place. So part 2 begins right by that waterfall, right here. And I believe we start at dawn, and we make our way, yes we do, we make our way across that waterfall by way of a fallen tree that acts as a bridge. We cross that fallen tree and we come into the forest on the far side. And then, if I'm not mistaken, we work our way up that hillside. Yes we do. Pausing to enjoy the view out across East March. So we're basically following this route here, but the actual route is a little bit twisty, windier, and we do end up maybe here-ish, we'll say. There's another river that comes down from near Ivarstead, and it flows down this way, and it meets up with, or the path we were taking meets up with another path that comes up here, and they both eventually arrive at Ivarstead. But in the second video, we don't quite make it all the way to Ivarstead, I don't think. No, in fact we don't. We stop probably right around here. So we don't actually cover all that much ground in the second video, but we do enjoy a lovely, relaxing wander up that mountainside and to that river. For the third wander, we begin once again right where we ended the second one, and we continue up this path, up the roaring rapids that come down there, and we visit Ivarstead. We take a little wander through Ivarstead, and we continue heading south. Now, for this one, things get a little confusing because I believe that we arrive at this intersection, or perhaps this intersection. I think it's actually probably this one. The roads are not marked properly on the map here, or maybe it's this intersection. I'm not quite clear because the map here shows 2 routes, but in the game I believe there's just one main route through to Helgen. So it must have been this intersection we arrive at. We have the choice of going this way, westward, towards Helgen, or eastward, towards Riften. And we choose to do neither. Instead, we go straight up into the hills here, and we follow along. Here, let's make this a little more visible for you. Follow along, and we reach an Imperial camp here. An Imperial camp. We pass on through, and we end up somewhere in the foothills of the High Jarl Mountains here, looking back across to the north and west at the throat of the world, right by a little cabin. I believe it's Froki's shack that we find there. And that is where we end the third wander. Now the fourth one. This one I don't remember so well, but I do know that, yes, we spend some time up in the high mountains, and we make our way down, and I'm just skipping through it here. We find some Dwemer ruins, that's right. Some fascinating Dwemer ruins. It's a little bit hard to tell where exactly that is. In fact, we kind of do an interesting loop, I think. So I think we go from Froki's Shack. I'm not positive if we head west or east first, but we end up in some very snowy area. I seem to think it was east, and then we come down and find some Dwemer ruins. I could be wrong about that though. But at any rate, we end up making our way back west, and we end up right about here. Right about here. In a little place called the Alchemist's Shack. The Alchemist's Shack. And that shack is full of all kinds of ingredients, of course, as you might expect of an alchemist's shack. Remember, there's, I think, a lot of butterflies around there too. And that is where we end our fourth wandering video. These were shorter videos. Well, not all of them, I suppose. Some of them were as short as 11 minutes. Some were more like 25 or half an hour. At this point, I was still experimenting and trying to figure out what kind of content you all liked, what length of videos you preferred. Stomach agrees. So part 5, let's see. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So, for part 5, we once again begin at the Alchemist's Shack, beginning where we ended the last episode. And we make our way along the road towards Helgen. But somewhere along the way, I think at a place called Orphan Rock, we diverge from the path and we head up into the forest. And Orphan Rock, some of you might recognize, is home to some vile hag ravens. Fortunately, they did not bother us when we were visiting, and instead we kind of hang left over to the west here, and we end up at a beautiful lookout, a Nordic ruin, which I don't remember the name of, but it has a fantastic view from here all the way to the west, out past Riverwood, into these hills here. You can see Bleak Falls Barrow from there, all the way across Lake Illinolta and over to the Reach. It's a beautiful view. I specifically remember the end of that video, this gorgeous view looking out across this amazing vista. So at this point we've almost done a loop, actually. We've kind of come down, mucked around down here a bit, then come back here, and now we're over near Riverwood. And if memory serves, part 6 once again begins right where part 5 ends, with that beautiful view. And then we come down the slope. Yes, just skipping through. That's right. So in part 6, we come down this slope carefully, And we end up down here on the road into Riverwood, which again is really not depicted properly here because the road quite closely follows the river on its way into Riverwood. But we follow the White River to Riverwood. Then we spend some time wandering through Riverwood, which is still to this day one of my favorite settlements in Skyrim. Then at the very end, we wander just out of town. The road crosses the river, you can see right here, and we stop on that bridge looking westward into these hills here. There's a little cascade that comes down, and that is where we end wander number 6. Let's see where wander number 7 takes us, because I don't actually remember that so well. So let's see. Okay, all right. Of course, how could I forget? So for video number 7, Skyrim Wander number 7, we cross the White River here, and then we take the track up towards Bleak Falls Barrow, which you no doubt remember. It's the way to get to the Golden Claw quest. We come up into the hills here, and we find our way to Bleak Falls Barrow, which is situated right about here. And then we enter Bleak Falls Barrow, and we end that video right inside the entrance to Bleak Falls Barrow. There's a campfire there, and we rest by that warm campfire because it's night time. Night had fallen outside. And then for video number 8, I don't even have to look at this one because I recall we spent time wandering through the depths of Bleak Falls Barrow till we get to where the dragon priest resides, the innermost sanctum. And then I believe we exit Bleak Falls and we find ourselves here on the northern shore of Lake Illinolta, looking north or southwards, across the lake. But I will double check to see if that is where we end. It absolutely is. So we have this beautiful view to the south as we exit Bleak Falls Barrow. And you know, that is one of my most enduring memories from playing Skyrim for the first time. I remember coming out of Bleak Falls Barrow. I think I might have told this story before. Coming out of Bleak Falls Barrow and seeing that beautiful view across Lake Illinolta. And it was just starting to snow. Evening was just starting to fall. And Secunda started to play the music. Secunda from the Skyrim soundtrack, which, if you don't know it, look it up. You'll recognize it, I'm sure. It's so profoundly beautiful. It is just such a delicate and ethereal piece. It just takes me back to Skyrim and that moment every time I hear it. The snow falling and the stars starting to come out. Just beautiful. So that's where episode 8 ends. Episode 9, I believe, begins right there. Indeed it does. And episode 9 takes us along the north shore of Lake Illinolta. And yes, that's what I thought. So we wander along the north shore of the lake, enjoying the lush greenery, the shallows along the way, the sunken ruins, at the western end. Then we come around to the southern side, to right about here, to a spot called Half Moon Mill. Half Moon Mill. And we end that wander standing on a mound just east of Half Moon Mill, looking back across the mill to the west, to the sun setting way over here in the west. And I specifically remember that I just stopped talking at the end of that video, and for a couple of minutes I just let it sit there and soak in the ambiance. We just stood there, and I remember a specific song, Wind Guide You, was playing, and it's such a beautiful, mournful sort of song. Not mournful, but it's wistful in a way. It's a perfect way to end a relaxing wander as the sun sets, the sky slowly darkens. And I just really loved that moment. It was really beautiful, so I just let it play, and we just stood there and enjoyed the sunset together. So that was the end of the part 9 of our Skyrim wonders. Now, part 10 does start from our part 9 ends, but we have a little interlude in between, and that interlude is the first Skyrim Saturnalia or Christmas video, which of course has become a wonderful tradition which I share with many of you. Every year around the holidays I put out a Skyrim Saturnalia video. That's essentially the Christmas celebration in Tamriel, and it's always Christmas themed, and it is a tradition that I hold very dear. It warms my heart, and it would not feel like the holidays without a Skyrim Saturnalia video. So that first one, I believe, takes place in Whiterun. Yes, it absolutely does. So there's not a whole lot for me to show you in terms of tracing here, because we begin at the entrance to Whiterun, and we wander our way up the main road into the city, and we end up at Dragon's Reach on the north end, and we spend some time appreciating the beautiful holiday spread that they have there on their tables. Of course, I download mods every year to make sure that everything looks seasonal, Christmassy. And then we end off just sitting at one of the tables in the great hall there at Dragon's Reach, soaking in the warm holiday atmosphere. So that is the first of what would become many interludes in the series that we sort of pause to celebrate Christmas and Halloween. Really, the holidays and Halloween is when I do that. But there have been a few other interludes too, for storybook readings and such. But Wandering in Skyrim Part 10 is, in my mind, one of the most iconic episodes of the series. And specifically, there's a part near the beginning where we're wandering along the southern shore of Lake Ilanolta. We're wandering to the east, and we're looking across to the throat of the world. And the sun is rising up over the throat of the world, and it just breaks over the peak, and it's casting its rays down towards us as we wander along that shore. And we're wandering through a field of lupins. My stomach also really likes this video. A field of lupins along the lake shore. And it's just so beautiful. This field of wildflowers, the sun just breaking over the mountain. One of my favorite moments in the whole series. I believe that's also captured in the thumbnail for that episode. But we then divert to the south. And yeah, that's right. Okay. Right. Okay. So we divert to the south and we wander this main road towards Falkreath Hold, and it starts to rain. We get a beautiful rainy walk through the towering conifers of Falkreath Hold. There's a little roadside tomb here. We head off the road there, and then we wander up into the forest, and we come across a little grove, a little pond in a grove. I think it might be called Shimmer Mist Grove. That's probably wrong. I forget the name of it now, but it's a gorgeous little spot. There's a couple of spriggans that hang out there. And we wander from there over to somewhere hereabouts. It's hard to know. Somewhere in the middle of the forest. There's a little shack there. And just a little south of that is a beautiful field of golden wildflowers. And that is where we end Wandering in Skyrim Part 10. So Part 11, as I recall, takes place from that same spot. We start from where we ended, as we do. And yes, okay. Oh yes, the beautiful nighttime wander. Yes, I remember. So, for part 11, we begin where we ended off in part 10, and we follow along this way. The details are insufficient here to really say exactly where we go, but we head west, and we eventually come across a forsworn encampment, and we wander up a hillside past some Nordic ruins and standing stones, and we end up somewhere up here amongst some Nordic ruins looking to the north over the reach. But you can't really tell that we're looking over the reach because night has fallen and we are just in awe of the northern lights, the auroras in the sky. And the last portion of that wander, I spent most of the time looking up at the sky, just soaking in the beauty. And we end somewhere around here again, looking northward and drinking in the colors in the sky. I remember some really amazing moments with the music again. There's so many incredible nighttime tracks in Skyrim. Tracks like Tundra often plays at night. What's the other one? Masser often plays at night. Really beautiful. And then we take another break. Another little interlude. And for this one, we actually spend the whole time in one spot because this is a reading interlude. We read a book called The Last Scabbard of Akrash. And for that, we go back to Breezeholm in Whiterun. Cozy Breezeholm. I think maybe still the coziest place in all of Skyrim, with the streets of Whiterun playing in the background, fire crackling in the hearth. We flip open our book. We read The Last Scabbard of Akrash. I really like that one. fun story too. So that is a sort of another aside, but the next episode, part 12, we do start from where we left off. Oh, that was so weird. You couldn't have heard it, but when I said left off, I just happened to seek to a point in the video where I was saying in the video, we're starting from where we left off last time. And literally, as I said left off here, I said left off in the video that I was watching. That's very strange. What are the chances? Exactly the same cadence. So we begin once again down here, the southern end of the reach. And this wander, I believe, takes us further west into the reach. Indeed it does. And I think in this one I actually might have read as we wandered, which is a little different than usual, but I tried it out. And I'm just trying to figure out where we ended this wander. Right. That's right. So this one, we basically follow the hills of the Reach to the west towards Markarth. And we end off somewhere around here. Again, it's hard to say exactly where, but somewhere around here. Let's move this over. Somewhere around here, there's a Dwemer Tower. I forget the name of that tower, but it is very iconic. It stands out on the landscape there and is quite beautiful, very sort of stark. And so we go into that tower and we wander all the way up to the top, and we end the wander looking now back to the east across this portion of the Reach. We can see these ridges on the far side of the Reach, and way in the distance the throat of the world as well. So for part 13, I think we head north, but let's see. So we come back down through the Dwemer Tower. We visit a Forsworn camp. Oh, right, of course. This is where we go to Skyhaven Temple. So we come down from the tower and we come to this little island right here. And we go through a Forsworn camp, and then we go into and through Skyhaven Temple. And we come out on its back porch, so to speak, overlooking the view towards Markarth. But it is nighttime and quite misty, and so we can't actually see Markarth. We just see a whole bunch of mist and cloud to the west. I forgot that we visited Skyhaven Temple. And then we have another Saturnalia episode, another Christmas in Skyrim episode. And for this one, we visit Solitude, I believe. It's actually very dark. I'm trying to make out where we are. But yes, I believe we do visit Solitude. And we actually spend our time wandering from the Gate of Solitude up through the city and then over towards the Blue Palace. And we end off in the Blue Palace once again with some delicious seasonal treats in front of us, just enjoying that warmth. And so that's our second Christmas Saturnalia interlude. And then another interlude, another book reading. This one takes place somewhere I can't even show you on this map, because this map does not include Solstheim, the island of Solstheim, which was added in the Dragonborn DLC. But it is to the north and east of Skyrim, out in the Sea of Ghosts. Sea of Ghosts. And we visit a skull village up on Solstheim. And we go into their great hall, very cozy place, and we read the book Avar Stonesinger. Avar Stonesinger. Another nice little reading and a little interlude. As you've noticed probably, the interludes, I kind of go wherever I feel like going. But the main series, I do try to make a continuous wander. So, moving on to part 14. Okay, part 14 actually is a break. It's funny as I mentioned that right as we actually have a little break. I think it is. Let me just make sure. Yeah, part 13 ends over at Skyhaven. Yes, part 14 we do break. So, in part 14, we do a little bit of traveling in between 13 and 14 that you all don't get to see. But, what is the name of this place? I actually forget the name of the cave, but anyway, we end part 13 over here at Skyhaven Temple. We begin for part 14 right about here, off the western end of Lake Elenalta and on the southern edge of the Whiterun Tundra, right in this area. So I guess we basically in between, we came this way through the Reach back to the Whiterun Tundra, and we actually wander eastward along this road towards Whiterun. But along the way, we stop at a cave, and again, I forget the name of this cave. It's something or other grotto, I believe. But it's a beautiful cave because it gets quite a bit of sunlight in there. And so there's all kinds of beautiful plants and trees growing in this cave. I seem to remember there's a companion's quest line that takes you in there. Anyway, we explore that cave, and that is essentially the end of that video, I believe. I'll double check, but I think that it does end. Yeah, it ends in there. I wish I could remember the name of that place. You know what? Let me look. I have a interactive map open here that I can check just for the sake of knowing. I believe it is Bloated Man's Grotto. Bloated Man's Grotto, I think, is where we go and end off in that wander. So, part 15. Part 15. Oh, also is a big divergence. Okay, I guess there must have been a point here where I decided that I just wasn't going to bother with trying to make the wanders continuous anymore because maybe I felt it was too restrictive. I wanted to be able to go different places. But part 15, it finds us underground in Blackreach. So this is another one that I can't really trace for you. But I believe I entered Blackreach for this wander up here in the Pale. There's a great lift up in the Pale. I think that's where we entered Blackreach. We wander through the inky depths, and we see all kinds of glowing mushrooms and a great artificial underground sun. And we end up ending the wander down there in Blackreach. But I don't think part 16 picks up from there. We'll find out. But first, we have a couple of interludes. This marked the very first Halloween wander that I ever did. And this one was once again in Whiterun. A lot of the mods have a lot of decorations in Whiterun. So in this one, we wander up the main drag once again, and we stop at the Gilder Green. I'm fairly certain. We take a seat at the Gilder Green, and we find on the ground by the Gilder Green a spooky book. This has begun the tradition of spooky book readings. It was The Cabin in the Woods, Volume 2. And so we read through that spine-tingling tale, and we end the wander sitting under the Gilder Green in Whiterun. In that year, we jumped straight from the Halloween wander to the holiday season Saturnalia wander. And for this one, where did we go? I'm looking. Oh, right. So for this one, we actually jump way over here to near Solitude. There's a lighthouse right off this point here. Hopefully you can see. By Solitude. And this is, I believe it's just called Solitude Lighthouse. Sorry, I'm just fighting with the map down here. There is a mod that adds a lovely little Christmassy store there called the Merry Snowberry. And so we visit the Merry Snowberry, and then we go to the roof of the Solitude Lighthouse, and I had set up a little Christmas scene there, using the decorations added by the Merry Snowberry and a mod called Jackson's Positioner, which lets you place and position items more easily and permanently. So I actually set up a little Christmas scene on the roof of the lighthouse for us to enjoy there. And that, I believe, is where we end that wander. That was a fun one. I remember spending quite a long time decorating for all of you, making it seasonal. The next part, part 16, finds us, that's right, no longer in Blackreach, but not too far from Solitude. This wander we begin right here, south of Dragon Bridge, across the Karth River, looking north and east towards Solitude and across Yalmarch. And I remember specifically we were looking east because this video begins with a glorious sunrise, and I remember specifically playing the song Dawn at that point to coincide with the dawn, of course. Another beautiful song off Skyrim soundtrack. And for this one, we actually spend our time wandering first to the west and then down, and we cross the Karth River. It's hard for you to see here. Let's bring this forward. We cross the Karth River and we come back north. Sorry, did I say the east? We go to the west. We cross the Karth River, and then we head northeastward to Dragon Bridge. We wander through Dragon Bridge and then up the main road until we reach Solitude. And we end that wander right by the gates of Solitude. So at this point we had visited Solitude once before in a Christmas wander, I suppose, but we had not been there in the daylight. So at this point, my frequency of putting out Wandering in Skyrim videos had slowed. to make way for, all kinds of other content on the channel. And so we skip straight to another Halloween video after this. And this one, yes, this one takes us on a very spooky wander in Morthal and into the swamps. So for this video, we begin in Morthal, and it's all dressed up for Halloween, and we wander through Morthal out into the swamps and north until we find the Bloody Tankard. I believe it's called the Bloody Tankard. It's another little shop by the same author of the Mary Snowberry, but the Bloody Tankard, of course, is stuffed full of Halloween curiosities, spooky decorations. And so we spent some time poking around in that shop and enjoying all the weird and wonderful things that are on display there. Lots of creepy stuff. Very cool spot though. And I believe we end that video there in the Bloody Tankard, if memory serves. I'm fairly certain. Yes, that appears to be the case. By a crackling fire. And it's somewhere up here in the swamps north of Morthal. It's a bit of a wander to get there, but that's where we end. And then, gosh, we've got quite a few videos left to go here. This is going to be a very long video, you guys. The next one is another holiday season wander, this time in Winterhold. We wander from Winterhold over here, up through the town, and into the Mages College, the College of Winterhold, which would be somewhere up here. And we wander up through the college into the library, and we enjoy some of the holiday cheer because the library is full of decorations. That's where we end that wander. I always like to end those holiday wanders somewhere nice and cozy. Nice and cozy. Where next? So, the next one, where do we start? Yes. So the next one, we actually, okay. So the next wander, we are now on part 17. For those keeping track, we've had many interludes, but for the main series, we're on part 17. We start up here in the Hafingar region, and we wander past a beautiful pond, something pond, I forget exactly what it's called. We make our way down here, once again past Dragon Bridge and across towards Hjalmarch, and we end our wander right here or thereabouts, looking back across the swamp towards Solitude. And we can see the silhouette, not the silhouette, but the distant buildings of Solitude on their massive plinth in the distance there. Now, does the next one pick up from there? Let's see. Part 18. Not quite, but not too far away. So, part 18 is a lovely snowy wander where I believe, I'm just watching here, but I believe, yes. So, I think we start in Morthal. We wander our way along the road here. It's nighttime, It's bitterly cold, blowing snow. And then we head to the south and we come through these hills here until we reach Labyrinthian. Labyrinthian, which is the great ruined Nordic city situated in the mountains of Hjalmarch. And it's funny that here on the map they depict this as a main road coming through here, because it's really not. It is barely more than a track at some points, but we end up in Labyrinthian looking northwards out across the forests of Hjalmarch in the cold night snow. Where are we at here? 19. Part 19. So part 19 does pick up more or less from where we left off. Not quite, but pretty close. And I remember really liking this wander as well. We pick up right about here, south of Labyrinthian. So we've come through over the mountains in between. And we head south through Whiterun Hold, past a bandit fort, an abandoned watchtower, and we work our way down to the west, and we end off somewhere around here, looking northward. There's a little farmstead, a little abandoned house here, and we are looking off to the north and a little bit to the east at the end of that wander. That takes place during a brilliant, sunny, beautiful day with a bright blue sky. Then what do you know? It's a Halloween wander again. This one is a fun one. It takes place over towards Riften. And as I recall, yes, we read another book, Immortal Blood. We begin the wander north of Riften, which you can't see. And we follow it up, follow the road. Gosh, I wish my stomach would just pipe down. Follow the road north, and at some point we cut in this way. We cut in and head westward. And I seem to recall we see some spooky scarecrows and some other very Halloween-y things. And we find a little shack somewhere over here. And that's where we read Immortal Blood, a very spooky Skyrim tale about vampires. So it's a pretty short wander, but it's a good Halloween-y wander with a nice spooky reading at the end. And then it's the holiday season again. For those keeping track, it is now 2017. Holiday season 2017. This one is another Whiterun wander. And where do we end this one? I'm trying to remember. Oh, is this the one where... Yes, okay. So for this one, we actually start in Whiterun. And we work our way down through the city. And we follow this path out towards Riverwood. But then we diverge from the path and we cross the river and we find a little cabin right here, all decorated for the holidays. A cozy little cabin that faces north and overlooks Whiterun. And we head on into that cabin, poke around a little bit. There's a Christmas tree, all kinds of seasonal items. Then we get cozy and we end our wander right there. That was another really nice one. A very cute little cabin. Goodness, we are moving along. The next wander is part 20, finally, part 20. This one, where do we begin? Okay, so I think this one where do we do this one? Okay, alright, I just had to get my bearings, but yes, I do remember this one. I want to know where we ended though. Okay. Oh yes, okay. So this one we actually start more or less where we ended wander number 19. And we come along the road here and we swing around back south into Falkreath Hold. We come past this end of Lake Illinalta, the western end, and then we very closely follow the lake shore, the southern lake shore. It's a misty, rainy day. We make our way along here, past a little fishing camp. You might be familiar with it, at the eastern end of Lake Illinalta. And then we end up by the standing stones, the first set of standing stones most people encounter in the game. The warrior, the thief, and the mage. And we end off with that classic view from the standing stones, looking westward across Lake Illinalta on this rainy, misty day. So that was part 20. Part 21 begins where we ended, right here at the eastern end of Lake Illinalta, and it begins at sunset. So we get the beautiful sky all lit up in the west as the sun sets, and then we go for a nighttime wander. Oh yes, we go up past Helgen. That's right. So this one, I was setting up kind of a fun new adventure for us. So we wander up this road here, past Helgen, and up into the Pale Pass. You see it's labeled on the map right here. The Pale Pass in the High Gerald Mountains. Now, if we were just playing the vanilla game, this is where we would have to end, because of course this is the border, the southern border of Skyrim. However, we do end the video there, looking north towards the third of the world, actually more kind of northeast out this way, and appreciating the beautiful northern lights in the sky. But the next episode, which is part 21, is that right? 22. Part 22 finds us once again going off the map here, because we explore the Beyond Skyrim Bruma mod, which is a really cool mod. But basically it adds a landmass to the south here, across the border in northern Cyrodiil. And we can visit the northern Cyrodiilic city of Bruma. And that's exactly what we do. We cross through the Pale Pass. We head down the slopes, the southern slopes of the Gerals. We visit a very charming and cozy little inn along the way. And eventually we find ourselves in Bruma. And we end that wander in Bruma, which is a beautiful recreation of the city from Oblivion, of course. The next part is in fact an interlude, and for this interlude we actually spend a little bit of time wandering around Bruma, which again I can't show you, but we wander the city and we enter the great cathedral of the Nine there. The 9 divines, or the 8 divines, depending on who you ask. And then we read a book once we've explored the interior of the cathedral. We read a book called A Children's Annuad, or Annuad, I guess it's Annuad, which is all about the creation myths of the Elder Scrolls universe. The very primitive myths of the universe. Some really interesting stuff there. And I liked that reading because, again, we were in that great cathedral. And I remember I did a fun thing where when we entered that cathedral, I put an echo effect on my voice to make it sound like we were in this massive space. And I think it turned out quite well. I thought it was a really fun effect. After that interlude, hey, it's Halloween again. And for Halloween 2018, gosh, where did we go for this one? There's another reading. Oh, is this the Falkreath one? Yes, so for this one, we come down to Falkreath. We wander through the town. We visit the famous Falkreath graveyard. And then we read a spooky book in the little caretaker's hut next to the Falkreath graveyard. Now, what was that book? Let's see. The book was Trap. I seem to recall Trap. It's about a thief that gets their comeuppance, if I recall correctly. So another spooky wander and a spooky Halloween reading. And then it's Saturnalia 2018. And for this one, yes, this was the Markarth one, the Markarth Saturnalia wander. So we begin outside of Markarth, marveling at the beautiful northern lights in the sky. And then we spend the wander going into Markarth, wandering through the decorated streets of the festive city, and ending up at the inn, once again in front of a warm, cozy fire with everything decorated for Christmas, or Saturnalia, of course. All right, well, we're getting there, but we still have, a fair few left to go here. So this is definitely longer than I thought it was going to be, but we're going to do it. We're going to get through all of the episodes so far. Oh, yes. So the next one was another interlude, quite a departure. It was a Skyrim VR wander. I modded up my Skyrim VR, put on my Oculus Rift headset, and we took a wander in virtual reality where the camera was strapped to my face. I got to do some really fun and immersive things, and I would love to do another Skyrim VR wander. In fact, I will, but I need to get the game modded up again. And Skyrim VR modding has come a long way since then, but it was a really fun way for me to, sort of up the immersiveness. You guys were literally seeing what I was seeing. So for that one, we actually start north of Lake Yorgrim here, at a little inn, which I forget the name of. It's the Dark something, the Vilmir Inn, maybe? Could be. And we wander all the way along this route, along the River Yorgrim. I believe we end off here in Windhelm at, yes, one of my favorite places, Candlehearth Hall in Windhelm. I said Breezehome is the coziest place in Skyrim. I think Candlehearth Hall is the second coziest place. Beautiful roaring hearth there. And that's where we end that Skyrim VR interlude. I really would like to do another one of those. It was so much fun. Very challenging to record because, again, the camera was strapped to my head. And so I was trying to keep it smooth, but it's very tough. You don't realize how much your head moves, how much you're looking around. So, despite that being sort of a traditional wander, I still considered it an interlude because it was in Skyrim VR. So for the next part, which is part 24, we find ourselves back down here in Bruma. And we spend some time wandering around the town of Bruma once again. And we make our way, we make our way eastward. And I can't really show you here, but we head east from Bruma, and we find ourselves on a mountaintop roughly over here. And on that mountaintop is a great tower called Frostcrag Spire. And Frostcrag Spire was part of the Wizard's Tower DLC in Oblivion. And we go into the Wizard's Tower right up to the top, and we enjoy an incredible view of a star-studded sky with beautiful stars all over the place, twinkling in the night sky. And I really enjoyed that one because it was great to go back to the Wizard's Tower. The Wizard's Tower was always my player home of choice in Oblivion. So I cannot wait for Sky Oblivion to come out, my friends. Sky Oblivion, which is a total conversion of Skyrim into Oblivion, basically rebuilding Oblivion in the Skyrim engine. It's been in development for many years, and it's finally got a release window of 2025. So maybe in 2025 we'll be doing some wandering in Sky Oblivion. I can't wait. Part 25. For part 25, we begin more or less where we left off, which was at the Wizard's Tower. And where do we end that wander? Where do we end that wander? It's a little hard for me to tell because I'm not as familiar with that landmass, but we are still in the Beyond Skyrim Bruma mod. We wander down from Frostcrag Spire way over to the east as far as we can go in that landmass, and then we head south and we follow a river, and we end up somewhere down next to a lake. I believe there's a little hut there down that river, but I'm not sure exactly what that area is called because again it's part of this mod, but it's a beautiful mod, really well done. Then another Halloween interlude. For this one, I did some more decorating using some of the props from the Bloody Tankard. So for this one, we wander through a spooked up Riften, visit a spooky crypt with piles of skulls. Then we head south down to the standing stones on the southern shore of Lake Honrick, and I spookied them up as well with some fun candles and pumpkins and stuff, jack-o'-lanterns. And that is where we end that wander on a very spooky Halloween night. No reading that year. Then we have a period where I basically only put out the holiday wanders. So next we have a Saturnalia. This is 2019. And this one was where were we here? Windhelm. It was a Windhelm wander. Yes, of course. I end up back in the cozy spot. So we spend time wandering the streets of Windhelm, all decked out for a Saturnalia. We basically loop back around, come back to Candlehearth Hall, and we end the video by the fire in Candlehearth Hall because it's so cozy. How could you resist? Halloween 2020 took us where? Oh yes, the fortune-telling one. So this one was pretty fun. This one I downloaded a fortune teller mod. We began our wander out here in a spooky Draugr crypt on the shore of the Sea of Ghosts. We wander through the spooky crypt. We emerge on the north shore here. We follow it along. It's night time. We end up over by Dawn Star. And there happens to be a fortune teller's table there. A Khajiit fortune teller, I believe. And we engage in some fortune telling. And we look at some cards on a table there. It's a very neat little setup. And I thought it kind of had a bit of a spooky Halloween kind of, fortune reading vibe. That one was a little tricky to edit, especially that fortune telling part, but I remember it coming out pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. Saturnalia 2020. We're jumping ahead here. Saturnalia 2020 once again brings us back to the Merry Snowberry. The Merry Snowberry over in... That's right, this was a fun one. The Merry Snowberry back over at the Solitude Lighthouse. We had visited there once before, but this time we find a very magical artifact. And that magical artifact is a snow globe. And inside that snow globe is a little pocket universe, little pocket dimension, with a very cozy Christmas cabin in it. So we visit the Merry Snowberry, then we pop into that little snow globe, and we visit this cozy cabin, which once again I had decorated up to be all seasonal and cheery and Christmassy. Another fun one. Another cozy one. And then what do you know? It's Halloween again. Halloween 2021 this time. This was another Whiterun wander. So that was the second time I had wandered in Whiterun for Halloween. But I had some more mods and some different Halloween decorations. So for this one, we begin at the entrance to town. And we wander our way up through towards Dragon's Reach once again. But we go all the way through Dragon's Reach, and then we pop out on the back balcony that looks north over the Pale. And it's all set up out there for a ghastly meal. There's a table covered in bones and jack-o'-lanterns and such. And that is where we end that Halloween wander. And then for what is technically, I guess, part 26 of the wander. This was the one I did for Skyrim's 10th anniversary. So this was in, I guess, November 2021. It was the big 10-year Skyrim celebration, and I redid my entire mod list for this. Tried to make it look as beautiful as I possibly could. I had a new PC at the time, and I went all out. And for this, I wanted something nostalgic, something that would harken back to everyone's first experience playing Skyrim way back in 2011, if you did in fact play way back then. Whenever you played it, I wanted it to be reminiscent of your first time playing. So, we begin our wander just outside of Helgen, where you exit the tutorial cave when you're playing Skyrim. And we follow the route down the slope here. We go over to the Standing Stones at the eastern end of Lake Elenalta, and then we follow the path to Riverwood, just the way you would when you're starting the game for the very first time. But this time I made it look as gorgeous as I possibly could. I was really happy with how that turned out, and it was a very just heartwarming, nostalgic revisit of those early game areas. We ended that one over here, looking north across the Whiterun Plains to the city of Whiterun and Dragon's Reach perched up on top of its mount here. And then, just like that, it's Christmas again, Saturnalia 2021. This one I did down in Morthal. Did a little wander in Morthal, all dressed up in Christmas Saturnalia finery. We wander through the town, we loop around, and we come back to the Great Hall where the Jarl hangs out. And I once again did some fun decorating in there, set up some Christmas trees and gifts, tables full of Christmas treats. We end up sitting once again in front of a cozy Christmas feast in the Great Hall at Morthal there. Wandering in Skyrim Part 27. This is, as of right now, the most recent episode of the main Wandering in Skyrim series, which tells me it is well past time for another one of those. What I'm learning here is that I really need to put out more Wandering in Skyrim episodes between the holiday episodes. For this one, I started outside Riften, the North Gate, and then we wander all along the north coast, the north shore of Lake Honrick. We come along, we cross over here, we spend some time along the main road, then we cross back across the Trevor River, and we end up at a little hunter's camp just the north side of the Trevor River. It's a beautiful wander though. I downloaded the mod Aspens Ablaze, which just makes for gorgeous aspen trees in the Rift. Just beautiful. Once again showing off that overhauled mod list. And I think it might be the most beautiful wander that I've ever done in Skyrim. It's a really lovely one. I really enjoyed recording that one. There are a couple of points where you can really see the performance dipping. My RTX 3080 was chugging at that point, if you can believe it. 4K heavily modded Skyrim will do that, even to a 3080. Now I have the 4090, so we can push things even further. So, Wandering in Skyrim Part 27 is the last of the main series, but we have 2 more videos came after that, somewhat recently. We have last year's, but the most recent Halloween Wander, in which we begin just outside of Riverwood. We wander through a very spooky Riverwood, all decorated in Halloween, finery, all kinds of pumpkins, jack-o'-lanterns, and more. And we kind of loop around and we come back to the entrance and up into the woods just here to the immediate east of Riverwood. And there is a spooky hunter's cabin where we read a spooky book. It was, I believe, let me make sure this was The Woodcutter's Wife. The Woodcutter's Wife. And as we finish reading that book, suddenly we see the ghost of the woodcutter's wife. She was there all along. What became of us after that? Well, we ended the video, but I guess we were okay because we move on to our final Wandering in Skyrim video, my friends. The most recent one that I've done. Wandering in Skyrim Saturnalia 2022. Another cozy Christmas wander in the grand tradition. For this one, I returned to Winterhold. We begin the wander in the courtyard of the Mages College. We wander down into Winterhold, and then just outside of Winterhold here, we diverge from the path, and right here there is a cozy little house. Not really a cabin, it's actually a very well appointed house. This was a mod that I found quite recently, or just looking for a new Christmas mod last year. And it is a beautiful house done up in the most cheerful holiday style. It's a gorgeous kitchen, living space with a beautiful Christmas tree, massive holiday dining hall, and a very cozy Christmas decorated bedroom. And that, my friends, is where we ended that wander in a cozy Saturnalia / Christmas / holiday decorated bedroom next to a crackling fire, a beautiful Christmas tree, and a mug of hot cocoa. And that is the last time that we visited Skyrim together, at least the last time on the YouTube channel. I do, of course, stream Skyrim over on Twitch with quite a bit of regularity, quite often, and our wanders and those Twitch streams have taken us all over Skyrim. I couldn't even hope to begin to show where we've been there. I would love to have you over on Twitch as well for our our Skyrim playthrough there with our Khajiit Mittens and his gang, Indigo and all of them. There is a link down below this video if you'd like to join us there, of course. But it's not the last that you'll see of Skyrim here on the YouTube channel, because of course there will be more Wandering in Skyrim videos. And as I said, this has made me realize I need to do more Wandering in Skyrim videos outside of the holiday episodes. I really love this series. It holds such a special place in my heart, and as you've seen here today, I have such fond memories of each and every one of these wanders that I've taken with all of you, and I hope you have such fond memories as well. I would love to hear from you if you have a favorite Wandering in Skyrim episode, a favorite place in Skyrim where you would like me to wander, or just a favorite memory from one of the wanders we've taken together over the years. My friends, I hope you enjoyed this look back at the history of our Wandering in Skyrim series, and I hope you found it tingly and relaxing as well as nostalgic. Thank you so much for joining me here for this reminiscing, and we will certainly do more Wandering in Skyrim together in the years to come. Thank you once again for joining me, my friends, and I look very forward to having you back here next time. Farewell for now.